Why is workplace drama so contagious? So contagious. I want to talk about something that every single person listening has probably experienced one way or another, whether you work in retail, but workplace drama. Not the kind that's fun, like reality TV show and there's drama and then everybody goes, to Paris and shops and everybody's best friends again. But the kind that every day we seem to deal with in retail. She took my sale. It was my customer. It was my turn. She took a longer lunch than usual. Did you guys notice? I feel like that was a lot more than an hour. He never cleans. Did he even close the register last night? The everyday retail kind of drama. The misunderstandings, the assumptions, the gossip, the hurt feelings, the frustration, the situations where two people are upset with each other and neither one has actually had a conversation with the other person. And the more I thought about it this week, the more I realized that workplace drama, it's usually never about what is actually happening or what's happened. It is the story that we create about what happened, the stories in our head. Because most workplace drama, it doesn't start with facts. It's assumptions. And those assumptions can spread like wildfire through an entire team faster than almost anything else. Welcome to another episode of Sorry, It's Discontinued. I'm Hilary, and I have been in this business for over 25 years. And today I want to talk about why drama is so contagious, why work feels so personal, and why we seem to assume the worst in each other, and how maybe we can start communicating better. Because honestly, I think most workplace problems could be improved with one simple thing: a conversation. Actually seeing each other. I mean, can't we all just get along? Sorry. It's discontinued. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in life is that we don't react to reality as much as we react to our interpretation of what that reality is. Think about it. We make up stories. A coworker doesn't say hello. A teammate, they don't ask for help with a task or a chore or a job. Someone seems distracted. Someone forgets something. Someone leaves before you expected them to, and they didn't say goodbye. They didn't say goodbye. What the hell? Those are the facts. But our brains don't stop there. We immediately start filling in the blanks with our stories. Oh my gosh, she didn't say hi to me. Did I do something? What was that? Maybe I helped a customer and I got back to her and maybe it was her customer. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe they just don't care. They could really give a shit. Maybe they're lazy. Maybe they don't want to help because they're totally lazy. Maybe they think that they're better than everyone. They're just, here to collect a paycheck. Maybe they're taking advantage of the situation. What is interesting is that we rarely fill in those blanks with positive explanations. We assume the worst. And before we've gathered any information, we've already written an entire story about who that person is and why they did what they did. And the problem is that stories feel like facts. The more we repeat them in our heads, the more convinced we become that they're true. Even though we may not actually know what happened because we never really talked to the person. We assume the worst. So I have thought about this a lot. There were some things that happened at work this week that really it becomes exhausting. It's sad to me. And that's why I wanted to create this episode. because it happens so often. Why are we so quick to jump right to the negative conclusions? The truth is, part of it is simply how we're wired. Our brains are designed to look for threats. Thousands of years ago, assuming danger, it helped keep us alive. Today, we're usually not dealing with physical danger. Hopefully, thankfully, not in the workplace. We're dealing with emotional danger. Being excluded, being disrespected, being taken advantage of, becoming a victim, being treated unfairly. So when something feels off, our brain immediately starts searching for an explanation. And unfortunately, the explanation, it often chooses the worst possible story. And once we've decided what that story is, we start looking for evidence that supports it. We have to verify it. We have to make it a fact. Everything that that person does and is doing that pisses us off or has done before, it is proof that we were right all along. But why does drama spread so quickly? Most drama does not stay between two people. Because when we're upset, we want validation. We want someone else to confirm that we are right. So instead of talking to the person that's actually involved, that upset us to begin with, that might have hurt our feelings, that might have stolen our sale and our customer, or might not have closed the register, we talk to everybody else. Can you believe what happened? She doesn't have the right to do that. Can you believe that she did that? What was he thinking? Did you guys see that? I knew this would happen. I didn't trust her from the time she started here. It just confirms what I thought. And before long, people start taking sides. Now we have teams, all because of a story that may or may not have even been accurate. Probably not. And if we're honest, gossip, it feels so good. It can feel so good in the moment. I'm connecting with someone. We're creating connection. We're bonding. We're agreeing with each other in support that this person's awful. And it creates a feeling of belonging. We are a team. I am not alone in this. I am not crazy. This job is stupid. That person sucks. And you're my buddy, and we can sit here and talk about it. There's something so comforting hearing someone say, "You were right, dude. I mean, I would be upset too. That shit was messed up." Problem is that gossip rarely solves anything, if ever, ever. The original issue is still there. The misunderstanding, still there, not addressed. The communication between the person you're upset with never happened. Now, many workplace conflicts, they aren't usually about work. The truth is, they are never really about work. You're not really pissed that this person didn't close a register. I mean, if it's happening for, months at a time, weeks at a time, the last week you've closed with this person and they have not closed a register, I get it. Maybe it is about work. That would be really annoying. But a lot of times, the argument about customers, it's not about the customers, or the frustration about closing duties. It isn't about the closing duties. The disagreement about schedules. It isn't really about schedules. That is usually when it comes to schedules, the fact that we have absolutely no control over our personal lives. We are at the beck and call of our company and store and managers. But work often becomes the place where all of our personal stress, it can leak out. You can suppress it, but over time, things happen and it'll come out. And we don't ask enough questions. So the person that you are so upset with, we have no idea what they're going through. And all of these little microaggressions, now the gossip that's spreading all around the department because this person didn't do what you wanted them to do or took advantage of you by helping too many customers at one time, or whatever it is that you couldn't walk over to that person and say, hey, I feel a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I'm reading this wrong. But what happens when you start asking questions? A lot of people are going through a lot of shit. People are going through so much right now. Maybe they are caregivers. Maybe they are taking care of their family and kids. It's not my problem. I shouldn't have to worry about that. When they come to work, they better be ready to work and be a teammate. Maybe they are worried about money and they can barely pay the bills and they are working 1, 2, 3 jobs just to support their family. But maybe they are worried about money. Somebody in their family lost their job. Who cares? That's not my problem. Why is she helping 2 customers at the same time? That's my sale. I haven't had a sale all day. Maybe they're going through divorce. Maybe they are separating or going through divorce and they're dealing with custody issues and their children are sad. Maybe they're struggling with anxiety. Maybe they're dealing with depression or health issues. Maybe they just were dealt horrible information. Maybe they just found out somebody died. Maybe they're just really freaking exhausted and life is hard. Everything is so hard right now. And maybe they're grieving. Maybe they're depressed. We don't know. And that's the point. We don't know because we see a moment and we get angry with this person and we assume the worst instead of walking over to that person and just saying, hey, I noticed. Hey, I could use your help. But instead, we don't see the entire life behind that person, what they could be dealing with. Sometimes what looks like laziness, it could be somebody who's extremely tired because they are working many jobs or they're taking care of a sick kid at home. We don't know. And what looks like attitude, it could be somebody who's completely overwhelmed. Maybe they are so burned out and they don't know how to ask for help. What looks like rudeness, maybe somebody looks like a complete bitch, but really what they are is they're insecure, they're anxious, they're extremely stressed out. And what looks like indifference is really somebody who's really just trying to keep their shit together. We don't know until you ask. You don't want to excuse crappy behavior or people treating people cruelly. But if somebody has done something, you have to remind yourself this is a human being and it's usually a lot more complicated than the stories we tell about them. The disconnect that is happening everywhere. And it does not need to happen on the sales floor. We can be grown-ass adults. We can just communicate. And if they're not a nice person, then just stay away from them. Well, maybe that's not the answer. I guess if they're not a nice person, maybe the question we need to ask ourselves is what are the questions we should be asking them? Maybe they're really lonely. Maybe there's some really horrible stuff going on at home. If it's a narcissist situation, that's different. If they're a sociopath, well, yeah, walk away. Walk away. But if they're just genuinely have somebody who has done something, just go talk to them about it. One of the biggest things about this scenario and these stories that we tell ourselves and all this workplace gossip and drama, after we've told everybody all the facts that we have come up with, and we haven't even talked to the person that we're upset with. But the truth is, we spend an incredible amount of time an incredible amount of our lives with these coworkers that we don't want to take time to get to know. Think about it. You spend what? 35, 38, 37 and a half hours with these people. I mean, that the hours that were clocked in, years and years of showing up together in this space. And for many of us, we spend more waking hours with our coworkers than we do with our family. We watch each other go through breakups and marriages and babies and illnesses, career changes, losses. We lose coworkers. Life happens. These aren't strangers standing next to us. They're people sharing a huge portion of our existence. So why do we often put more effort into communicating and spreading gossip with everybody instead of just going and talking to the person who's standing a few feet away from us? Why do we find it easier to complain about someone than to just walk up and say, hey, this bothered me. I just want to clarify this with you because I don't know if I read it wrong. Why do we assume the worst instead of seeking understanding? We say we're religious or we go to church or we pray. We want the best for everybody. But when something comes up that pisses us off, then we can go and spread gossip and talk about that person. But we can't go and sit down with the person that we're upset with and say, hey, I noticed this. Are you doing okay? What do you need? One of my favorite ideas, it comes from a quote that I heard on the show Ted Lasso. It was just so sweet. I think it was from Walt Whitman. Quote that just says, be curious, not judgmental. I love that because it's true. Curiosity changes everything. It says there's more to this story. There's more to this person. Maybe I don't have all the facts. Maybe there's something I don't understand. Maybe my interpretation or ignorance is something I can learn from because curiosity, it creates space. Judgment, it closes it. It sets up a wall. It says, I know exactly why they did that. But curiosity says, I wonder what happened. I'm not going to assume the worst. I'm going to ask. And honestly, for me, especially in this business, and I have learned to do this and I am still practicing it every day. But curiosity has saved me from being wrong more times than I can count. Not assuming. Don't go talk to her. She's a bitch. She's going to try to steal all of your customers. Hey, watch out for her. She tells everybody your business. Hey, he's not very nice. I think he's kind of weird. You know what? She's actually shared a few sales with me. We have boundaries. We've communicated. I know where I need to stand. She knows where she needs to stand. And I will totally support her business. And I know she's going to support mine. Actually, this person over here, she wasn't as mad as everybody thought she was going to be mad. They thought she was going to be so upset. She wasn't even that upset because I talked to her. We worked it out. You know, he's actually not strange. He's adorable. I think he's just quiet and shy. But whenever I say hi to him, he smiles and he says hi back. He's so kind. I think he's going to school. What does curiosity actually look like at work? First, stop thinking you know. Stop mind reading. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is assuming we know what another person thinks, feels, or intends to do, who they are. We don't. None of us are mind readers. If you need help, ask. If you're confused, ask. If something bothered you, ask. talk about it. Second, ask questions before making accusations. Instead of, why are you doing that? Hey, I want to try to understand what just happened. I'm kind of confused. It can change an entire conversation. Speak to the person, not about the person. This is huge. Speak to the person, not about the person. Gossip is not as fun as you think it is. How does it feel when the gossip is about you? This has happened to me many times. I remember when I had started at Clarence, I was a young mom. My daughter was like 8 months. I was tired. I was cute. I was excited. I'd come into work ready to go. I loved the brand. I loved my account executive. I was excited about working at the store because for the first time I had Sundays off. Everything was pretty wonderful. I was really happy to be there. And the woman I worked with was a manager who did not like me. She was threatened by me. She thought I wanted to steal her job. She said it. I would tell her I didn't, but she went around that whole department talking about me to everybody. She went to each counter. I kid you not. She went to every counter talking about me, saying that I was in it just to take her job. I was a horrible person. I wanted to steal everybody's sales. It was pretty bad, actually. I mean, this is a woman who was a grandmother, and I think she was a grandmother. God love her. I know she had a hard life and she was fearful. She just was. She was fearful about everything, not just me. And I know retail is extremely stressful, especially when you have a manager who's up your ass about goals and you're worried about your job and you have to have your goals checked every 3 months and hope you didn't get written up and be on top of it. And then you have this young person coming in and they're excited to be there. They're willing to learn. Everybody likes them. It could be annoying. I get it. But she literally went around and talked about me. And this happened for about a month. Over time, I had to learn that I had to go and introduce myself to people and get to know them without thinking about her and what was happening. Because her story and her scenario, it wasn't going to change. She had made up her mind, and that's fine. But I knew that if I wanted to get to know the people in the department and be a part of this group, that I had to break that barrier and introduce who I was. So they knew I was not a threat, that they needed help, if I was there to help in any way I could, I would. I would split sales. I would help their clients. Because in the end, the grand scheme of things, I should say, it wasn't going to become about her fear and her story and her gossip and her worry I was going to take her job, which I did not want, and I would not have done that. But what it was is just creating a space where I could build a community with friends and people in this department. So before talking to 5 coworkers in the department about another person who might have pissed you off, ask yourself, have I actually really looked at what could have happened? Do I know the facts? Could I go and speak to this person and communicate? If the answer is no, and that's usually where the conversation, it could begin. If the answer is no, look inside yourself. If you're the one who's doing something that somebody else assumes you're doing to be sneaky, that you're taking advantage of people, and somebody's spreading gossip about you, wouldn't you rather them come and just have a conversation? Doesn't mean a confrontation, a conversation. Look at your own role in this. And it is hard. It is easy to gossip. It is easy to sit here and talk about people like they're not in the room. But I tell you, their energy, their soul and heart, they're in the room. Even when you're talking about them to other people. What if their kid is there? Would you say those things in front of their child, their mother? I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic, but we're all grown-ups. Gossip, it can be dramatic, and we are only contributing to the problem. And what if that person you were talking about is dealing with some horrible things, and they could really actually use a friend? We all carry stress. We all can be reactive. And sometimes we are carrying so much baggage into our workplace, into the department. And the goal, it's not about being perfect. It doesn't exist. But it's about being kind, being aware. So when somebody asked me the other day, can you help me with something? And I was thinking, I don't think I can help because I don't know how to do that. And then another person asked, I wouldn't help them. It's like, why wouldn't you help them? Because I know that they wouldn't help me. Why wouldn't they help you? Because I just know. But do you? Because at the end of the day, most of us are good people and we want to help each other. And that's where the growth can begin, especially when we need it more than ever in retail. We need it, people. We need connection, communication, and community. And we can do it. That's why curiosity matters so much. There's always more to the story. There is always a place to have a conversation instead of a confrontation or a conclusion. Stop creating the stories. We are spending half of our lives together, more time with coworkers than we are with our own families. I said it earlier. It's true. So the question isn't, why does workplace drama, gossip exist? The question is, what would happen if we stopped assuming the worst in each other? Start getting curious about each other. Get to know one another, because one honest conversation, it can solve a problem more than 20 whispered, gossipy conversations ever will. We are literally on a team. We need to treat each other like we are. Thank you so much for listening to Sorry It's Discontinued. This episode meant a lot to me because I've heard it so much lately. And it doesn't have to happen like this. We actually can have each other's backs. And believe it or not, you'll still make your goals because we'll help each other. It's crazy because teamwork, it does make the dream work, y'all. It really does. So please support your local stores, your local sales associates, spread kindness, smile, whether you're behind the counter or you're in front of it. Shop curbside. Even if you can't get into a store, curbside works. But I appreciate you guys so much. And I really hope that you are taking care of yourself. Go out there, make some new friends in your department. The people that you've worked with all these years, get to know them. Some people might still not be easy to work with. I get it. But the more you communicate, the more you build the trust, change can happen. All right. You guys take care. Give yourself a hug. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Sorry It's Discontinued, the podcast that brings you the reality of retail and the people, brands, stores, and products we all love. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit follow, leave a review, or share it with a fellow retail warrior. You can always connect with me or support the show at sorryitsdiscontinued.com or buymeacoffee.com/sorrypodcast. Now, this podcast is independently produced and not sponsored by any brand, company, or organization. All views, opinions, and personal stories shared are their own and do not represent any retailer or brand mentioned. Brand names, product references, and service mentions are included for storytelling and commentary purposes only. But I thank you so much for sitting with me today. And remember, continue to shop in store, support your local stores and your local sales associates. You can even call them and order. It's amazing. And every visit helps keep these stores open so we can all continue enjoying real in-person retail therapy. And I'll see you next time. I appreciate you so much. Bye. Sorry. It's discontinued.